The Skirrid Inn. Notoriously known as the most haunted inn in Wales, and not surprisingly, given the 182 people reportedly hung here. It's a hotspot for paranormal activity and has attracted many investigators from all over the world, featuring in numerous news articles and TV programs. Knowing what awaits inside, to stay the night here, you've got to be mad, and we did just that. Let's take a look at its dark and rich history, hear some of the stories, and introduce you to some of the resident ghosts, as well as share our own experience of a night at the Skirrid Inn. The ancient Skirrid Inn dates back to the 17th century, and although its frontage was updated in the 19th century, it replicates the styles from the 2 centuries earlier and still has the original mounting block to help gentlemen climb up onto their horses. Now known for its paranormal activities, it will come as no surprise that it's the oldest inn in Wales. For centuries, the pub was known as the Skirrid Mountain Inn, after the mountain to the east with its distinctive land-slipped hump that, according to legend, split when Christ was crucified. This local legend has been preserved through generations and is depicted on the sign outside of the inn. Although the present building dates back to the 17th century, it is theorized that an inn had stood on the site previously due to it being situated upon a pilgrim trail that led to Lanthony Priory, and a popular tale is that it was used as a rallying for local supporters of the Welsh revolt against the rule of Henry IV that was led by Owain Glyndwr in the 15th century. These claims can be strengthened at the entrance to the inn. Still in use, the front door is original to the building, and the wood has been carbon dated to 1500 years old. Inside, it's like taking a trip back in time, with much of the original layout having been preserved. The floor is flag-stoned, and the 17th century staircase and oak beams are still there, along with the stone fireplace in the Tudor-era bar. The wood panels adorning the dining area are thought to be repurposed from a ship dating around the 16th century. Upstairs you'll find 3 guest rooms. Room 1 and 2 thought previously to be one large courtroom until Cromwell's time, and many of the alleged ghosts are connected to this area, especially the bathroom in room 1, which used to be part of the holding cell for prisoners awaiting trial. Room 3 was apparently used for a licensee to live in up until the 1970s. Hanging from the beam in the stairwell is an ominous-looking hangman's noose, a chilling reminder of the people who were supposedly executed in the building. The beam it is tied to still has the score marks on it, said to have been caused by the weight of hanging bodies. George Jeffreys, the notorious 17th century judge, was responsible for sentencing criminals to death, even for the most menial offences, such as stealing sheep, and he condemned at least 182 people to hang at the Skirrid. As you walk around the inn, the atmosphere is eerily captivating. The uneven floors creak beneath your feet, and you can see down through some of the gaps between the boards to the floor below. As the night draws closer, the energy in the inn gradually changes to a somewhat uneasy and creepy aura. During our stay, we occupied all 3 available rooms. After most of the pub goers and visitors had left, we were lucky enough to sit around the stone fireplace with the current landlord of 16 years, Jeff Fiddler, who treated us to his wealth of knowledge and stories of the spirits who haunt the Skirrid. The most commonly cited apparition is of a lady believed to be Fanny Price, the former landlady of the inn. An unexplainable and sudden smell of lavender alerts visitors to her presence. Fanny sadly died of consumption at the age of just 35 in 1875. She was laid to rest in St. Michael's churchyard that is just down the road from the inn. Fanny left behind 4 children who lived at the inn with her, and they are believed to haunt their former home. They are mostly friendly, and the child spirits like to play tricks on guests at the inn, with reports of jewellery that has been left on tabletops for the night, being arranged in a unique pattern by the morning. Jeff told of customers' experiences connected to the dining area with the wooden panelling. People have reported feeling sick, stating they felt the room was moving, to even seeing a cat scurry across the floor when there hasn't been a resident cat at the Skirrid for at least 2 decades. These unexplainable events are thought to be attributed to the old ship panelling, harbouring the spirit of a ship's cat, and the trialling times out at sea. A supernatural claim was made by Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe, who once visited the inn, of the small extra dining room that's tucked behind the fireplace, sensing there to be a portal in this area. Other harmless yet bizarre happenings include an experience from a regular drinker at the pub. His £10 note, weighted down by coins on the counter, somehow ended up on the floor, almost as if it rolled off, which is physically impossible. However, there have been reports of not so friendly or benign encounters. Guests have been left terrified after waking up with strange marks around their necks, and feelings of an unfriendly presence in their rooms. Perhaps the most disturbing incident to happen to one of Jeff's guests. A lady staying in room 1 came running down in the morning, hair wet and dressed only in a coat, stating she tried to kill me. She'd been taking a bath, and something had held her down with some force under the water. Although she didn't see anyone, and no one was in her room, the lady was adamant her aggressor was a she. Jeff was perplexed by this, as usually you'd refer to an unknown presence as an it. The guest wasn't in any state to have a further discussion about what had happened, and didn't stick around for later questioning. But this story does beg the question, could this have been the former landlady Fanny Price, who was usually a benevolent spirit? In the 16 years that Jeff has been landlord at the pub, he has also had his fair share of strange phenomena. On his first night at the inn, before occupying the building as its landlord, he and his wife were sleeping in one of the guest rooms when she complained of something tugging on her leg. During the night it happened several times, and the couple had a restless night. They later learned that relatives of the people who were slow to die during a hanging would yank on their loved one's legs to end their suffering. Despite this experience, Jeff and his wife decided to take on the Skirrid, wanting to move back to Wales from England, where they previously managed another pub. Jeff and his wife moved into the extension to the original building, and after only a few days, another incident happened involving their grandson. Here's the story in Jeff's own words.
I've been here about 2 or 3 days, and my grandson, my step-grandson, so he called me Jeff, and he was only about 4, I suppose. And my wife had gone out, and he wanted to pee. Where I live, it's like a fairly modern house there. And I said, "Go on, yeah, big boy, now, good lad, go." And he came straight back down, seconds. I said, "That was quick." He said, "The man in the long coat won't let me in."
Jeff stated this is the most unnerved he's ever been, as his grandson wasn't old enough to understand the history of the pub, or even imagine something so strange. He also told of his previous family pet, a Jack Russell, would randomly assume a beg position in a certain part of the building. Jeff went on to share another experience he had personally with us.
I've seen a full figure once, and it was in the porch. Now, 16 years ago, I've seen a full figure there in like a scarlet long coat, like a Toby joke, like a coachman. And it's plain as day there, and a solid figure. When I tell people, like in paranormal, they said, "Can you see through it?" It was solid just by there. But the amount of times they've been unnerved is dozens of times. And you will be unnerved tonight, I promise you will, because it's just something odd.
After Jeff had left and workers had closed the inn, we were the only living beings in the building. Our first activity of the night was to fill the pucker cup that sat above the fireplace with ale, and place it outside the front door to ward off spirits and appease the devil, as was local tradition, and something advised to us to do during our stay. We then set up various equipment around the building, although we were already nervous from an earlier unexplained experience in one of the bedrooms. We were settling in and exploring our rooms earlier in the evening when we were alarmed by a strange repetitive clanging in room 2. Take a listen.
No chance.
It stopped and started about 3 times, coming from the corner of the room where a dressing cupboard sat. We braved investigating in and behind the cupboard and found nothing that could be causing that sound. Our next thought was perhaps the heating was coming on, and that was the explanation for the racket. However, upon inspection with a thermal imaging camera, this was also not the case. And after checking with staff, they could also not offer an explanation, and confirmed the heating was not turned on. The rest of our evening was mostly uneventful, other than a few electronic problems, with one member of the team's phone battery draining very quickly, as well as a laptop that has never malfunctioned, freezing twice and losing sound unexplainably. Before turning in for the night, we did by chance find an explanation to our earlier experience with the noise in room 2. By accidentally kicking a pipe running along the wall while sat on the fixed seats, that caused the same sound to reverberate all the way to the upstairs room. Early the next morning, still the only people in the building, one of the crew could have sworn they heard the chain hanging from the fireplace rattling, and another member, while getting ready for the day, picked up a handful of hair slides left out on the table the night before, confident she'd checked she'd got them all, only to find one slide left in the exact place she checked in a final sweep of the room. After reviewing our nighttime footage, we found nothing supernatural or unexplained. But we did only stay one night. Maybe we shouldn't have put the puka cup out to ward off the spirits. Although we don't have a personal experience to share this time, the guest book is full of people's endless encounters. Here are a few notable spooky experiences by fellow visitors.
Stayed in room 2 and woke in the early hours after feeling somebody breathing down my ear. I was still half asleep and saw a spirit by the door. I never realised at the time it was a spirit, so I asked if everything was okay. The spirit then disappeared. Very scary, but very exciting. We'll certainly be back soon.
Stayed in room 3. Wow. Scared witless. Woke up at 2:30 a.m. and there was a woman standing over me. I felt she was choking me. I called out, "Fanny, let me go." And she just walked out the door. Left in my pyjamas, never coming here again.
Very good night, lovely food and atmosphere, until everybody leaves. Never been that scared in my life. Extreme temperature changes, and many noises that were not human. Room 1 is the most terrifying room in the building. Opening the door and hearing footsteps coming down the stairs is a horrible experience to be involved in. Amazing night though. Thank you.
We were a little disappointed to not have any encounters of our own, and also to debunk the experience we did have. But after all, the ghosts have to have a night off every once in a while. This wraps up the Creepy Marathon month here at Top 5s. We hope you have thoroughly enjoyed the spooky content we've worked tirelessly on this month. As always, we really appreciate your continued support for this channel. Please don't forget to like the video and make sure you've got that bell icon checked so as not to miss any future uploads. And lastly, happy Halloween.